Hi guys, it's Miss Amy. We're reading in your science book today, page 271, section 9.8, Amphibians, Masters of Double Lives. Frogs, toads, and salamanders are amphibians, which are animals that live part of their life in water and part of their life on land. Over 2,500 different types of frogs and toads croak, peep, or garumph throughout the world. Each kind has its own distinctive sound. You may hear some of them in your backyard some spring evening, especially when the male frogs and toads are calling for their mates. Listen carefully. Could you recognize any of their sounds? The little spring peeper calls for his mate with a high-voiced pereep, pereep, pereep. Grink, 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 chants the green tree frog 50 to 75 times a minute. The male leopard frog quacks like a duck, and the bullfrog bellows deep like a bull. What other frog sounds have you heard? God has given each one a special song to attract its partner. Types of amphibians. Slimy-skinned frogs. Because of their squatty bodies, long hind legs, and smooth, moist skin, frogs are easy to recognize. They often leap from place to place with strong hops that send them sailing through the air. Frogs prefer to stay in muddy areas near lakes, rivers, or swamps where there is no danger of their thin skin drying out from the hot sun. You may have noticed how slippery a frog is when you pick it up. The slime, which is mucus secreted by the skin, on its smooth skin almost makes it slide through your fingers. This slime is God's way of protecting the frog from danger. Warty-skinned toads. Toads have drier and wartier skin than frogs. Because their skin does not need to stay quite as moist as frogs, toads can live farther away from water than frogs can. The moisture found under rocks, logs, and shady plants is usually enough to keep toads comfortable. Toads do not hop as much as frogs because their legs are shorter. Therefore, they are quite easy to catch. If you pick up a toad, you will notice that it is dry to the touch. Lizard-like salamanders. Amphibians that look like lizards with their slender bodies, long tails, and short legs are salamanders. Like frogs, however, salamanders have no protection other than the slime that covers their thin skin. These quiet relatives of frogs and toads usually hide under rotting logs or stones where the earth is damp. There are 320 different types of salamanders living mostly in North America, Europe, and Asia. Tadpole metamorphosis. Many frogs and toads lay their eggs in water. When the babies hatch from the eggs, they look nothing like their parents. Instead, they look like tiny fish without fins. These baby amphibians, called tadpoles, will grow to be frogs and toads. Tadpoles breathe through gills and move about by swishing their tails back and forth like fish. As a tadpole grows, strange things happen to its body. Most baby animals only change in size as they become adults. A tadpole changes its looks completely. This change in form is called metamorphosis. One day, the limbless tadpole starts to grow legs. The hind legs show first at the base of the long tail. Then the front legs appear. Frog and toad tadpole tails slowly disappear completely. A tiny set of lungs begin to grow inside the tadpole and gradually takes the place of the gills, which worked so well before. As the gills disappear and the legs grow longer and stronger, the tadpole begins to look more like a land animal than a fish. When it is almost an adult, the changed tadpole leaves its watery home and begins its new life on land. A protective coating. Amphibians do not have the protective scale-like skin of lizards and snakes. Instead, their skin is very thin and is always in danger of becoming too dry. Therefore, amphibians must live in damp and shady areas away from the sun. In order to keep the skin from drying out, God gave amphibians a protective coating of oily slime which holds water next to the skin to keep it moist. This special slime not only protects the amphibian from its surroundings, it also protects the amphibian from many of its enemies. You may have seen a dog pick up a toad with its mouth and then suddenly let the toad go. The dog had tasted the slime on the toad's skin. The slime on most amphibians is slightly poisonous and creates a terrible taste in a predator's mouth. Many times the amphibian can escape its enemy spits out the terrible taste. The only animal that is never bothered by the slimy skin of the amphibian is a snake. Most amphibians are harmless to man. You can touch one without fearing that it will harm you, although some people may try to tell you differently. Frogs and toads do not cause warts. Be sure, however, to wash your hands with hot, soapy water after picking up or playing with an amphibian. The small dose of poison in its slime may be irritating if it gets into your mouth or eyes. Some frogs have glands filled with poison that is deadly to their enemies. The most deadly is the poisoned dart frog in the jungles of South and Central America. Local Indians kill these frogs and extract their poison by roasting them over a fire, letting the poison drip into a pan. One blow dart dipped into this poison is able to instantly paralyze such animals as jaguars, deer, monkeys, and birds. Interesting amphibians. Some salamanders, like the mud puppy, never leave the water. This slow-moving amphibian creeps along the bottom of streams and lakes in search of worms, crayfish, and insect larvae. Like most salamanders, the mud puppy hunts only at night. Unlike most grown salamanders, it breathes through dark red gills just in front of its forelegs. Another strange salamander is the hellbender, which loses its gills as it matures, even though it never leaves the water to breathe. Instead, it breathes oxygen through its skin. At over 2 feet in length, the hellbender is one of the largest amphibians in the world. It is dwarfed only by the rare Japanese giant salamander, which grows to 5 feet in length. Some frogs develop in very strange ways. The male Darwin frog in Chile, South America, scoops up the female's eggs with its tongue and carries them in his mouth. This inch-long frog does not let the eggs out of his mouth until they have hatched and developed into tiny frogs that can hop out on their own. The Suriname toad in another South American native, lays her eggs in the water and then quickly loops under to catch them on her back. The eggs settle into folds in the mother's skin and remains there until they develop into young toads. Tree frogs are unique because of their toes. A tree frog has suction pads on the tips of its toes to anchor itself to bark. With these toes, the tree frog can climb any surface, no matter how smooth it may be. How many other interesting amphibians can you discover? Congratulations, you've reached the end of the book.